eastern sky as I'm standing on this reservation road. Been looking forward to this day, but now it wants wrong. This road takes me not to my baby's house. Reservation road, take me home, carry me onward, back to her. Reservation road, take me home, carry me onward, back to her.
Colleagues of the 25th Navajo Nation Council and our students here, we want to say congratulations to Honorable Lester C. Yazzie. Thank you, Chief Justice, for administering our oath of office this morning. Congratulations, Honorable Yazzie, now officially a member of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Honorable Yazzie, if you could just share a few words with us before you take your official seat.
Yat A, Shike, Shidane, Kodo di Ben Beja, Ade, who need it, Ha Abi Adel, Nikihoya, Arnold Hot Asaino, Zenego, Hia, Ntsrago in Ha Hig needs it. Ade in the Hado di Bish, Bahasa Anbaran, Doshin Hie, Shalchin or Senige, Shas Twin or Senige, Dishe, Hawan A Hot Oya Bigito. Jo ba ini zendo chi ni o hot o ya distributed o e sa ni tle ko hya a do in the sha chi ni hya na to njono da o sa do da na ai bi yin njono go na is na go be da ho tral e si ben na chi di ben bi ye ni ke sa la so ha shin za den da al te in de be tra ya hot e to le Yat ehot ianchios idolis, yat ehot hochios idolis. These jibe betrayahot eto hashinzade, nda alte a ko hya. She ya Lester Charles ya ze egin she. Hachini slot aschi bashin. Kia ane da shandaldo she eta she. Ado she ya bahale hol yeda o. Ado e ya chishike do aje in hima. And the belke wheat eh. Ako hot oe ado e den denshle. Ado inda. She ya da alchiniajan shlena da e hot oe ya be. Adanses kesa din le shada ajo ni hit in the hit in the tlochin in there. Aj satoshi ya da hot at the shnile. I am a product of the Raymond Navajo School Board, raised at the Raymond Navajo Dormitory. So, Ado, and I really do appreciate our founding fathers, also our president, board of directors, our board of trustees. They also assisted me with my post-secondary education through scholarships. Akotlochin the neda as yegon nakahin sin hihatna. Di benni ya kage da hotona na shite liage ya sani no as danle kidai be heo silzi aro iltra aro na neshilko ilya dona balache o tkap zilede ad inda inan nilya akoti ben bi je shikedo shit neto shalchin asho de shapeida hato silchesa Miss Sharon Hinyo Yazi ato e chishin lo e ato e yak at Slatin Slat to nach ego ya alkil zilton halshin ba nit out Nika in Hoto in Hillik is na horses. A ko la I just want to appreciate and say you've served the silent ranks for over 26 years. You never worn the Army green or the Air Force blue, but I really appreciate you staying home and keeping the lantern lit and our food on our table for our children. And I really thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you, son. Thank you for your service as well. My son, Cody, he's also an Air Force veteran, and he was stationed over at Kyrgyzstan, Metis Air Force Base, Aruk Adinda. He is part of the federal administration. So any of my relatives in this council chambers, if you ever traveled out of Sunport, out of Albuquerque, my son was the one that monitored you as you travel outside our four sacred mountains and as you return. He practically had you on the radar. He's with the FAA in Albuquerque. So thank you, son. I really appreciate you being here, Katla. I also want to acknowledge our speaker, Shnantai, Toshinale, Need. I really appreciate the fact that she's allowed me to do a temporary assignment with her staff over here with the speaker's office. Eben da Shnantai no Shenige do Salat soy no Shenige. Not on his chin and his kata ho so get on his hopigi do he ho silzi do he ho nilzen. Do ye do yat e kehidi ni the ko he zadan sa iba hens and question that I really appreciate the opportunity that I had with the speaker's office. The other individual I also like to acknowledge is Chief Manuel Rico. Being in the speaker's office, you never knew what the behind the scenes administrative responsibility that he has. And I always acknowledge Chief Rico as chief. Chief is the Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force is the highest ranking in the NCO structure. They have a lot of responsibilities, and that's why I really appreciate and acknowledge Chief Rico. Thank you. Hot on the car, nan luo. Hot elat. Inda. Di that Gedot dat so ye dot only chodish so. Di da how the yin da hoe is just da national nisho. Le dal kaltis ada shit ne ya dalkis adon the hallway go yait and the hakinnes dits jogal. Now, being the legislative assistant for 9 years for Honorable Speaker Seth Damon, I knew those footsteps. It was my memory muscle that said, "Oh, pick something up, tap your computer or something, do something." My muscle memory said, "The boss is coming. Act busy." Ahot orshes yahiya, dos taton nesta, ados shahot nilna. Shika deal was no. Ado di il ahas nilan so ado ban case. Di target how this is believed as a Tato issue that's either the Bayers that's been on the show others chon issue this in so tato sata honorable set Damon. Ako ado ye had z ado in the hotoi base got the Adian mission sag hoto bishma san sato ya that's a suka deal was no ado in the shiki hilt. Ako aisen sago ibakin a large area not ado a large area bazad binate. To a hotoi kadea your toe a hoto bita silni ko isen sago ibakin sin and I ho hoto be kick bitseske ho do kone a should just tago because how so it nas letni clinic le shada ate nash ajbike ya ho so that chachal tato bahal to tsat chi do nash ajdole acho church is saya to in the kinhojon a hot oya ade hot ka iji o dis hot she ne ya nanis ilato le ko ya se kwagel to ya nsago ya to kehan hit additional. Also want to acknowledge the Eastern Land Commission Commissioner Chair Simpson. Honorable Simpson's not here, but Honorable Madam Delegate Trouty. I am looking forward to being a part of the leadership on the New Mexico caucus and getting the project started and getting funded streamlined through the Navajo Nation. Ahot oya hotoi ni chihasti do lechikedo shidnen o lenige in da hot oya hotoni dato niado sinsago in jono ya hotoni dato no pinako kya insago non hit this honorable Madam Speaker, Ara Kujitoshin and I Satagi Honorable Madam Vice President, and then also Miss Navajo Yat A. To Nikito Nikasan Nagit, not Scoshikato should ne, at least ego Yat Eto, needs go eating in his no, the on so I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Yazi, and congratulations again. And colleagues, we do have an agenda before us. And number 3, recognizing guests and visiting officials to the Navajo Nation. So we do have requests to speak. And for our children up on the floor, we do have a list of names that you can see on the board. Those are for delegates that pressed their roll call to speak. So we'll be going down the line. First, we have Chair Vince James.
Akihat Speaker, other members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, other Shal Kahasi, no audience, no Tanigi, Kodod, Eya Eshaho, Abna, Eya Ehat, additionally to the students that are here from Joshkai Community School. Welcome, students, again. It's good to see you guys. I know several delegates of the 25th Navajo Nation Council did do classroom visits, and Kyle here did draw me out. And that's the reason why I'm wearing the same jacket today again. But thank you for the drawing. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you see my picture, the drawing that he drew on Facebook as my profile picture. It's been up for almost probably 2 months now. So I want to thank him again. And I acknowledged him with the beautiful necklace, the turquoise necklace that he has on, and it's great to see him looking sharp this morning, wearing it again. So thank you again, Joshkai Community School Ado teacher in Lenigi. She was a former Miss Navajo. I'll have my colleague take care of all of that recognition. So and then also Shachine from Ganado High School. Thank you. Senyat Ehigin Dasadon Ansalinko. Thank you for the song, and also Shadeja, Honorable Dr. Leandra Thomas, Superintendent of Ganado Unified School District. So there's a Lenigi behind the Salinko. Although when it's appropriate, Speaker, I'd like to make a request for a moment of silence when the time comes. We did have one of our medicine men and then the original author of the Treaty of 1868 song, Mr. Paul Dookie, that we lost, and his funeral is tomorrow and in Fort Defiance. So tomorrow I might be a little bit late, just FYI for you guys, colleagues, but I really want to have a moment silent for Mr. Paul Dookie, and then also his nephew, the late Mr. David Wilson, who was a Vietnam vet. And so he had his funeral on this past Saturday. So they're both from the same family. And and then also one of our relatives from Cornfield, a young gentleman, Mr. Malcolm Begay, his funeral was on Friday. And they were really affiliated with the chapters that I represent. And so I'm making that request. And then also, I know we've done a moment of silence for Corita Keto. She's originally from Steamboat, which is one of my chapters. Her maiden name, she's actually Amigo. And her mom and her brothers and sisters are dear to my heart, especially her late mom. And her late dad was a medicine man. So and then I'd like to recognize all 5 of my chapters: Kitlachi, Ganado, Cornfield, Steamboat, and Jedito. Ado a Kobaneo Natle, Bande Natle, did that St. Mary's Food Bank. They contributed and donated and brought so many food items to many of the communities in the state of Arizona. And I really want to recognize them this morning for their services and the time that they have dedicated themselves to the Navajo people to provide that service. Although we do have a foster grandparent also that has been working for over 45 years, and she is 96 years old, and she's still working. She is still a foster grandparent at one of the school. And I'd like to also recognize Grandma Ellis Sarah Joe. So and so when we went to the recognition of foster grandparents, she was recognized there. And so she, throughout this week, whenever she has time, when she comes in, I'd like to ask for some time to recognize her for doing an outstanding job and still working, still strong at heart, still strong at mind, still working with what she loves doing, which is working with the young children. So out الكيدا هنا out إكودو بين هنا حسسنا دولة شايل خاصين لوش إنه لني إحياء نوتسكو أكو نجناشي إيسر دا صوتين دو نجناشي كودو ناسو نجت صوتزن لني كي بيتلاني لون كنا هيت إيدو ل زلتين سنة لي بيكونا أكو دو بالله أكو إحياء هديني دولة. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for your recognition, Hashashi Dedi Saint, and we'll do that recognition of moment of silence. So that is for Mr. Paul Dookie Nkahatati and David Wilson, Malcolm Begay, and Corita Keto. Thank you, colleagues. Next, we have Chair Eugenia Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. Speaker, at this time, I do want to recognize Ms. Joe's 7th grade government class from Trushkai. Delegate James already took all the thunder from me, so I'll let him keep that. But I specifically want to recognize Alandria James. She drew a picture of me as well, and I got to visit the classroom, and I got to answer some really tough questions from the students. But I really enjoyed my time there with them at Trushkai School. I do also want to recognize at this time my husband, Speaker. This year in June, we will be married 27 years. So I always try to thank him during this time. As we all know, being married, we all have spouse and family who stand beside us during these times. And I always try to recognize and remember my husband for standing beside me and assisting me as I do my work on behalf of the Navajo people. Speaker, I want to mention that on the south side of the chambers, we have a group of 12 students and two teachers from Little Red Schoolhouse and Elizabeth Irwin High School in New York City. They are visiting Winter Rock and the Navajo Nation this week as part of their research into economic inequality. And they'll be sharing their learning with their school community when they return to New York next weekend. I'm very grateful to be their host here for council, and I'm very grateful that they were able to get a hold of me and ask me to help assist them as they navigate the government, the Navajo Nation government, as well as what we do here in the Navajo Nation. So I do want to recognize them at this time. We also, Speaker, I'd also like to recognize, we do have our officers who are serving and protecting currently here on the Navajo Nation. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize our officers at this time. One specifically who is here as our Sergeant of Arms, who is protecting chambers, as well as our Northern Agency Veterans Organization, our NAVO. I love my veterans there in the Northern Agency, and I really hope to see them soon. I think the ARPA meetings have really interrupted our veterans meetings, but I'm hoping that we can come together soon. Speaker, I would like to reserve my time.
Thank you, Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, and welcome the students from New York City. So if you could wave your hand so we can identify you. Okay, or you can stand. Next, we have Honorable Dr. Andy Nez.
Oh, yeah, Shadow Speaker, Otto Kwaiki, my colleagues here, and those in the gallery, Otto Aden Kwaiki, the Isanal Ado, Nihinat Kwaiki. I had Yat Apen and Hidini Doles. I'm Andy Nez, Otto. I work with our communities of Fort Defiant, Sawmill, Crystal, and Red Lake. I want to recognize our chapters here. From our chapter officials to our staff, to our subcommittees, and our constituents across the Upper District 18. Also to our Sanders Valley High Color Guard, to do our pledge and our national anthem. Dr. Thomas, thank you. And also to, we have several schools. Trushkai community is here. Page High School is also here. I just got done speaking with them at the Budget and Finance Conference Room. So we welcome Mr. Sombrero and his class for making the trip all the way out to the People's Chambers and the nation's capital. Also from Trushkai, we have several of our students. Mr. Joaquin, who's also behind me, had a chance to meet him as well, who drew my picture. It was very unique to be interrogated by seventh graders for about a good hour and a half. So that was exciting. That was pretty fun. I enjoyed myself. Also, to Ron Lee, I know he's also here from Northern Arizona University, who's the Director of Development. And so just a unique situation here as we continue to see and expose the People's Chambers and all that happens here as far as Navajo Nation government and its functions. So it's a unique thing to have our students witness it. One thing I stressed to them was to observe and ask questions. So always feel free, students that are here, observe what's going on here, ask questions. I think that's always a commendable thing as you're growing and learning in this environment. And so there's just a lot to be thankful for. To my left here is Joaquin Yazi from Chishkay. He is a seventh grader. Also Dean Baya, who's also from Chishkay. And Speaker, if I'm in order, I'll have the two Page High School students introduce themselves, and that'll conclude my recognitions this morning. Yeah. First up, we have Kylisha Sloan.
She Kyle Sloan is yeah totally and not totally touching but change center can chase and Jenny Dashanella.
Yeah, Otto Kunaiki, Evelina Billy.
Ja te Torachini, Sedeshkini, Kliziklana, and Touchini.
Yeah, so thank you again. Welcome to your chambers. And that speaker will I'll waive the rest of my time. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Andy Nez, and also want to welcome our Chief Justice, who is also here with us. And we did have the Vice President and also Miss Navajo Nation, Amy Begay, that was with us just a short while ago. So thank you, and then we'll keep going down the line. Shema, Honorable Helena Nez Begay.
Oh yeah, it's actually Ado Shidane. I'm that Delegate Helena Nesbigate. What did you need? Sleep at Lizatlana Bushes G. Not quite Neda Shichado, not Shitabaha Dashinale. Although this morning I really enjoy the students from Page High School and all the other schools, the students that came into our chambers. Although the staff too from each school, although Shiaj, the Navajo class teacher, Mr. Earl Sambero, a Page High School, the a Hotnet ish, a Shiaji. I want you to acknowledge you. Mr. Earl Sambero. Ado and Shadido, I see Ado, she works with the students at Page High School. So her name is Virginia Whitehorse. Because of my older sisters, I'm the baby one, so they're the reason why I'm sitting where I'm sitting, because they're the one that molded me into who I am today. So they throw me on the horse and they whip that horse and I fall off, they throw me back on. So to my colleagues, the 25th Navajo Nation Council, I really enjoy seeing you guys all here again. To our staff, that they told me they drew a picture of me, but I didn't see the picture. So I hope it looks very nice where we can win the first prize. I just want them to introduce themselves to Abishin Bijito Bitbiclan Yadahadolne. Say your name and your clan really quick.
Hire Harrison, Misha, Tolnajini. Yatish Alien watching Nisha, but that Nisha.
So I want all the Page High School students to stand up too. Thank you. I know how far they travel because to come to this chambers, I get up very early just to come here, but they beat me this morning. So here had konde na ha china ha da no she the yell ba here hansen. Do shin jon go 8 so the zen ha ba ha o zi ni ke we and lenny the jon go shin bi ke ha. Kada team bi ke team ba ka go hot on jon go not that you need esto let kon ni zad ya at he de konde so the zendan link or hot on hina hat not that it's on a katole ado my body weight gap chapter. They always set up a big screen TV for our elders and the community of body weight gap, and they come in to see this to see this council meeting, and I really appreciate the staff there and the officials for doing all that for our people out there because they don't come this far to come to these meetings. So they set those up. Here the Kaibito chapters and the Chi chapter, Copper Mine chapter, and Tanalia chapter. And John Goshin is the audit that is not other across the Navajo Nation. The has tweet on his on the halon, but the hot eto lefon hits a lot so. Do such a better need a Quichin Lenko, do he had adult not that the graduation is coming upon us again. So John Goshin Hatchin yet not that little nostra yet not the cot or letco, but I need to has seed or here.
Here, Honorable Helena Nesbigay for recognitions and to all our students again. Do Kone Hanana Zihigi, we have Honorable George Tolf.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Speaker. Also, our 25th Nomination Council, Yanani Spring Session. Do nada hilsa do hatchin do Nahas Kanlin Kodo Citizen Bay How Ziba Getnitzen. Nahatchin Heda Loan Hatzatin what Allah Yego Bedawal Hadish Ado Dan Hidden Alta Eben Himasando Hichedo Himaton Hije Dedal Kit it's at the Hatizen Baby Dahosla Sashin I don't by down Sand what all Edo Kon Hitash Galdo Kon He Atos chapter Benash Nido Baka Casimir Lake Little Water, White Horse, Bentata, Councilor Ohon Sino, and Torion. The official Lenigishin Lat is not staff and Lenido Benashnido. Mainly, I advocate for all the veterans that are I don't not has Kakote, like Ado, not has Kado, like a dischin. Nahatchin Bedeka. Yego Benasni, but the Hadropa, Hawanoshi et Hasan, Etra, Aden Jura, hot Etle, a Kodo, not Zid Evic out, or your Catholic Evic out, stay on the Sahat, not a Hashi. A hot Anhidin can linko, Ita aid a sound de can linko. Hot Isla A, Bachinda Halonko, Giska, Ishin Lobatapan. Yo in Iceland also ko Shabedalni Ashonde kon United States kon Yahay which ansi ba deko Navajo Nation do ke etra. Edin his bars and she died down the beach has seen lido lito. Ado achit ad the sweet ado speaker. His staff ikidi kon alle. But I think about the joke back on and he hashi. He and I catleko. Hala they put long hours on Daniel chasing question and later dino. A co attorneys that and Lenny Hodat echo. The height ego that showed appreciation. No kodo was and Lenny but those are the key people that run this government to helping us put in legislation, letters, whatnot. They make phone calls. we tend to forget our employees throughout the Navajo Nation. They're trying to make a living, put food on the table. They have families too. They have heart too. Arin hidden ko disjide ko sa inat ani dan neko. Iribat is the to kodo Mr. Yazi. Kodo yatan ni do kashin. Akha she na bakins and ko Mr. Arnable Damon kinatan jiriki ko. Although I know you ever since we met each other at the Eastern Agency Veterans Organization. And one time I tried to get a hold of you. So I call your number, and here you're in Korean South. I was surprised that we can talk to each other like that. So a good journey you had. I know you served for your country, your family. Do ye go shin nan shin lako. Na hotsotlo be itahalesto. E ba hensen halchin hodat eko. Jashin Palikana Dona Kaishinitande. Ayoda ended Nandlingit ea Odlilacom into the battlefield. Kotne aid also Harlet, a hot Abba Consenco, aid Elapideka. So thank you for your service and be part of this Navajo Nation Council. To your family, your mom, and your relatives. So welcome aboard. Madam Chair, thank you.
Honorable Toth. Chair Jesus.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and good morning to my colleagues of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Also to our relatives that are present here in the gallery, and to our young generation that are sitting here on the floor of the gallery, and also to our listeners on the call. I just want to acknowledge everyone. Good morning and happy spring to you all. First, I'd like to recognize all the chapters across the Navajo Nation, chapter administration staff, and we have the elected officials. We also have the grazing officials, land board, and farm boards that endlessly and tirelessly are out there every day trying to move their community forward in hopes that they would be sustainable. I also like to do a personal shout out to St. Michael's chapter, Oak Springs, Pine Springs chapter officials and chapter administration staff for working for the community and trying to pull the community forward. So I appreciate each of you and thank you for all the hard work in regards to projects that are ongoing. Second, I'd like to acknowledge a young gentleman who had served on the 20th and 21st Navajo Nation Council, whom at the time served on the Public Safety Committee and also the Budget and Finance Committee. Former council delegate, Honorable Pete at City, if you could please stand. He's here located to the north. Let's give him a hand. Mr. Pete at City currently is now employed with P&M as a tribal government relations manager, and I'd like to thank him for his presence here this morning. Next, I'd like to recognize the enterprises of the Navajo Nation. First, we have to the south, Navajo Technical or NTEC. We do have CEO, Mr. Vern Lund, if you could please stand, with Ms. Cortasha Upshaw, who's the government liaison. Give them a hand. Thank you for gracing us with your presence here this morning. Shahat, thank you for taking NTEC to the next level of governmental operations. Next, I also want to thank all the staff and also the manager at Navajo Tribal Utility Authority, General Manager Mr. Haas, and continuing being very dynamic and diversifying into UA's portfolio. Next, I'd like to go ahead and also acknowledge Ms. Heather Duncan at City with Navajo Housing Authority as the new CEO, and also to all the staff over there. And then to Navajo Nation Oil and Gas. To the north side, I did see President Mr. Earl Atsosi. If you could please stand, sir. He is president with Navajo Nation Oil and Gas. Give him a hand. Shanatani for being here this morning. We also have Navajo Engineering Construction Authority to Mr. Silversmith and his team out in Shiprock. We have the Dene Development Corporation to the staff out there. Thank you. Natani Development Corporation. I believe Mr. Greg Bigman is the new executive director. We have Navajo Agricultural Product Industry. Mr. Zeller, thank you for leading the agriculture industry and taking it to the next level for Navajo Nation. We have Navajo Nation Hospitality Enterprise, Mr. Stan Sapp, and to all the employees under hospitality, thank you so much. We have Navajo Arts and Craft Enterprise to Mr. JT Willie and his team. And we have Navajo Gaming Enterprise there that also is an enterprise to the Navajo Nation. And again, we cannot forget our federal partner, Bureau of Indian Affairs. We do have Miss Deborah at City here, if you could just wave. And then also Miss Cheryl Curley with BIA here to the south. Thank you for being here with us. And again, to my colleagues of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, thank you for the hard work that you're constantly enduring on a daily basis. And I appreciate each of you as we strive to bring the Navajo Nation in hopes that we make it a better place, better quality of life for our younger generations that are sitting on this very floor here this morning. And again, thank you, Madam Speaker, to you and your team of legislative, and to all our executive and judicial branch employees for tirelessly working, just like Honorable George Tolt had mentioned. You don't get enough pay, but you're constantly out there every day trying to meet the goals and objectives of our program. I appreciate you. I appreciate each of you every day and continue to work hard and representing the Navajo Nation. Back to you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Chair Jesus. We have Honorable Arvizo.
Madam Speaker, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, good morning. Madam Vice President, good to see you, ma'am. I just want to recognize my chapters, Church Rock, Pinedale, Mariana Lake, Smith Lake, Theru, and Yambato. That's who I represent. I want to recognize Rhonda, Joe, and Miss Dishchitney, if you can stand. These are the teachers from Chuskai with the kids that are sitting behind us. They teach Navajo class at Chuska. So what the kids did is they selected a delegate and to talk about them. So they also had to draw them. So they drew their delegate of choice and they did a little intro on them, and it was really interesting to visit with them. And I'm very thankful for our teachers, and Miss Rhonda Joe is also a former Miss Navajo. So wanted to recognize them, and I also too want to recognize our veterans. My brother Pat Sky King is a veteran, and he is 100% disabled. So I know how it feels to have a veteran that's gone to war and come back and be hurting all the time. So if you see a veteran, just tell them thank you and just say hello to them, because sometimes, you know, they don't get that as often as we think. You know, all I do is call my brother all the time. That's all I can do. And I don't know if my other siblings do the same thing, but, you know, I know what he's going through. So every time I call him, he always says, I ask him how he's feeling. He says, I'm here today. So I know how veterans feel. So it's a lost toy done linigipa dahosiado up on stock case. And that's probably something that we all need to do. Veterans, I see Kanigi, Delegate Lester Yazzie, Delegate Ricky Nez, myself, Delegate Danny Simpson, Delegate Toth, Delegate Azret. But it's a lost so I need live for the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Arvizo. Next, we have Chair Crotty.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Shadeja. Appreciate the prayer this morning and for my colleagues who assisted in our sexual assault awareness walk. Appreciate your time and dedication for our children here. Yat e shidane kia ani neshla the Viking people bashischin. Des chini deshache the Irish people deshanule. Shay Amber Kenas Bakrati Yanisha To Hatsoi Ben Not Shah. So I come from Sheep Springs, just north of Tushkai and far away from Page, but it's wonderful to see all of you here today. I sit on the Budget and Finance Committee, but my passion work is chairing the Missing and Murdered and Their Relatives Task Force. Shadeja, if I'm in order, I'd like to let our students introduce themselves, and they're also going to answer if they were given $1 million to help their people, what would they do? So come on up, what? Introduce yourself.
Kia ani toho gwini, well, kia ani nisle toho gwini, bashe dashe ashihe and dasanawe.
So if you had $1 million, how would you help your people?
I would use to restock some food.
Thank you, Bob. Good one.
Yeah, it's Aaliyah Spencer, Tanasani Tatnasani, Look Atene, Tabaha, and Todachini. I would spend it on medicinal herbs for my people to help.
Yat esh Shaylin Yal Harian Shaki Ani Nishla Heligati Bashichin Heligati Bashish Dashiche Ma E Dashgishne Dashanele. I will help by helping disabled people, like people that went to the army and they came back, and other people that just have a disability that they were born with.
Gate Crystal John Nioshie. Touch cheating.
If you had $1 million, how would you help?
I would give it to the foster care.
So thank you, Speaker. We always say that our children are not the leaders of the future, but the leaders of today. And so my colleagues, they have a clear vision on how we collectively can work for the betterment of our Navajo people. With that in mind, I want to introduce Chiaj here, Elliot. If you could stand up, Elliot Neal. He is part of our missing and murdered Indigenous persons for the office of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southwest region. The Southwest region is going to encompass districts of New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. Mr. Neal is one of 5 missing and murdered Indigenous persons Attorney General in AUSA who will provide specialized support to the United States Attorney's Office to address and combat the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous persons. This support includes assisting in the investigation of unresolved missing and murdered Indigenous person cases and related crimes, and promoting communication, coordination, and collaboration among federal, tribal, local, and state law enforcement and non-governmental partners on MMI issues. So thank you, Mr. Neal, for being here. And I also want to make sure that Ms. Elisa Dimes is our AUSA Indian Country Crimes Liaison for Navajo Nation. And so colleagues, we received all of the press release on the work that they're doing, putting away the most violent criminal individuals here on Navajo Nation. Why? So that your home is safe, your community is safe, and our people are restored. So yeah, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Crotty. And Chair Crotty did lead this morning's awareness walk. And today, colleagues, we're wearing teal to recognize Sexual Assault Prevention Awareness Month. Teal turquoise. And next we have request to speak. We have Honorable Shauna Antlaw.
Good morning, do yate, Shadeja, Speaker Curley, Ado Anotwa, Shik Ada Nothini, Sha Shana and Klein, Shia. Ado Donna and Schlinigi Aya, Wathan and the Schlido Twittich in a Bash's chain, touching a dash Chedo, Kiani Dashanella, Ado Sha a Bishmasa, Unlage and Leap at Hazogi, Equit Aishanan, the Shadison. Ado Yat and the Dashni. It's a large a and the Dashni, Shamado Shaja, Kala Ebit Ado Yisha, Ado Shin and Lini. Kunshiyaj a salato jalido ado atwaja a salato a benishni dole ada kunde a pro birthdays a to a benishni dole to yade nina dole ada shito o yad ended dishni anotso Ado, I just want to take some time to recognize all of our beautiful children here in the gallery and here on the council. It is a great joy to see the future and also the present leaders of the Navajo Nation. So thank you to all of our students that are here today. In addition to that, on Wednesday, I will be recognizing several individuals, one of which is a retiree of the Navajo Nation, 33 years of service as an emergency medical supervisor, Mr. Dennis Charlie. I will also be recognizing my LDA who retired in December, Mrs. Joanne Dedman. In addition to that, I want to congratulate the teams of the 3A state champions, Navajo Preparatory, boys and girls. I will also be recognizing our Navajo Times, Navajo Nation Spelling Bee champion, Ms. Chanel Joe. She attends Saley Public School. She will be representing our Navajo Nation in Washington, D.C., so we wish her great luck. In addition to that, I just want to say thank you to all of our Navajo Nation employees, all of our leaders here today, our Vice President, our Miss Navajo Nation, our President, and also our Chief Justice here. Thank you for your steadfast service to the Navajo Nation people, and also to all of our Navajo Nation employees, and then our elders in the nursing home. And then I just want to say good morning to all of our guests here in the galleries. It's good to see everyone here, and what a great way to start off our spring with all of that enthusiasm, that positive energy, and that's the way we like to start our Navajo Nation Council. In addition to that, I just wanted to take some time to recognize a very talented, special young man who is here today, and I like to call upon him. Quentin, if you could come join me here. And just like many of the delegates here, they were asked to draw their council delegate that they wanted to, showcase. And so Quentin, if I can have you introduce yourself, Shiash.
Ya te koen besenti shi sora chini bashi to ba bashi. I'm in 7th grade and I go to school at Chishkai Community School.
And Quentin, I wanted to go ahead and present him with a special token of appreciation. And like him and that mindset, I do think of our youth as our role model. So So with that, Speaker, I just wanted to say good morning to all of my colleagues. And as we begin this session, may we keep the prayers at our forefront. Former Miss Navajo, Leandra Thomas. Jonago ein citizen dis do hala eben na eya nantien lenigi the nebe ol enigi jona ado ein hich ansalado lesson so dishna oko equit o a yaha and the dishni speaker, and I'll turn the floor back over to you, Shadeja. A yaha.
Goshin Yaha, Honorable Tlaw. Next we have Chair Parrish.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, Madam Speaker Crystal and Curley, Madam Vice President Richelle Montoya, also Madam Chief Justice Joanne Jane. Good morning to our Madam Attorney General Ethel Branch. Good morning to our leaders, and also good morning to our colleagues on the 25th Navajo Nation Council. It's good to be here with each and every one of you. Thank you, Shede, Dr. Leandra Thomas, for the prayer this morning. Sheekia ani adona ene shlingo do bashichin twitchini ada shits kabahan ada shanella akut astan initially she shandin perishinesia adult twittanesha de nasha twittanesha do chimbitko do de nahoto banasha do ado ahia do bahia nitsin. Thank you again for the opportunity to recognize guests this morning, Speaker. It's wonderful to be surrounded by multiple Miss Navajo Nations. Good morning to Shadeke. I'd like to welcome Miss Rhonda Joe, Dr. Leandra Thomas, also Miss Autumn Montoya, who is a part of the walk this morning, and our current Miss Navajo Nation. Welcome to the chambers this morning. Thank you, Shada Chairwoman Amber Knesba-Crotty, for leading today's walk to bring awareness to sexual assault. Thank you to everybody who joined the walk this morning. It was a brisk morning, but it was good to be with our relatives across the Navajo Nation. This morning, I'd also like to recognize the communities that have selected me to serve on this council. I'd like to recognize Kayenta chapter, our president, our vice president, also our manager who are in Kayenta today, and my communities of Chilchimbito and Denahotso. Good morning to our chapters back in the Western Agency. I'd also like to recognize, Speaker, this morning. I do have two students that are sitting behind me, or actually three students, Vice Chair Simonson and I are trying to figure out who's going to recognize who. So I have a few names this morning that I'd like to recognize: the students from Chushkai School and also from the school in Page. We have Araya with Chushkai School. We also have Bonita from Page and Chantel James from Chushkai School. Thank you to our colleagues for continuing to support education across the Navajo Nation. And it's really good to see such and to feel such a youthful energy here in the chambers this morning. I'd also like to congratulate our new council member, Mr. Lester Yazzie. We're looking forward to working with him on the Budget and Finance Committee. So welcome to the new council delegate from District 6. Congratulations to his family. I'd also like to recognize our Navajo County Superintendent, Ms. Fern Benali, is also here this morning. Welcome, Ms. Benali. Thank you for being with us. She's on the south side of the chamber. Last but not least, Speaker, I'd also like to recognize my grandparents this morning. They were with me yesterday evening. As council delegates, we are to and from each side of the nation, so it's good to spend time with our grandparents, our families, and our relatives. So my grandparents aren't with me here in the chambers this morning. They did just give me a hug and went back to Western Agency, but I just wanted to recognize them and thank them for their continuous support and their love. So I also wanted to recognize those that support us while we are serving the Navajo people. Good morning to everyone in Kayenta, Denahotso, and Chilchimbito. Thank you, Speaker. I waive the rest of my time.
Thank you, Chair Parrish. Next, we have Vice Chair Slater.
Thank you, Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. It's great to see so much energy and youth in the chambers today. I would like to recognize the representatives that we have from the office of U.S. Senator Mark Kelly. If they could stand up on the north side. We have Rosa Ruiz. We have Ana Armendariz. And of course, I think you all know Mr. Luther Lee. So if we can give them a round of applause. And thank you very much for being here. We appreciate the strong working relationship with Senator Kelly and his advocacy for the Navajo people and the Navajo Nation. And we believe your presence is important so that you can hear the reports, talk to colleagues, and listen to leadership. But I would encourage you to talk to our youth today, since we have so many of them here. It'd be a great opportunity to hear from the next generation of leaders. So with that said, Speaker, I just want to say ahiahet to the office, and I hope that we have a wonderful spring council session, and say thank you to Chief Justice Joanne Jane and our Vice President Richelle Montoya for being here at the beginning. Ahiahet, thank you very much, as well as our Attorney General. So I'll yield the rest of my time. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Next, we have Chair Nez.
Yat Ben Speaker Curley, Aro Bishbahasa Ankoro, Yat Aro Chief Justice Joanne Jane, Yat Ben Aro Ethel Branch, Nkegatit Ahi, Aro Attorney General, Aro Vice President Montoya, Konhel Konatlaniki, Aro Nahalchin Notleniki, Notsko. Rickne is in Shia. Hawasanan Sle or Zaid Kachin, Bashichin, Sanabilash Chado, Kia Ani Dashnal Hot Ait, and then Schlido has Trango chapters, 6 chapters, Banash, Nishigate, Sadak An, San Juan in Hanzar, Upper Frulam, Burnham, and Newcomb. First, I'd like to recognize my lovely wife, Audrey, who is not here with us today. She's at work, dedicated herself to teaching our children over in Shiprock. So, to my family who's working hard on the farm, getting the farm prepared. I always say you're all more than welcome to see the Nez farm in Lower Fruitland. So stop by anytime and have a melon or watermelon when it's time. So yeah, I'd like to say thank you to Navajo Nation Oil and Gas. They bought 21 blankets for veterans during the Vietnam Veterans Honor Walk from Nygren, from south, from I-40 through all the way to Upper Fruitland. Navajo Nation Oil and Gas. Thank you. Armed Forces Day is coming up, and there's always they always schedule this event as well. And I'd like to recognize some boys and girls state basketball champions from my area. From Kirtland Central Broncos girls, state champions, so as well as from Navajo Preparatory School, the boys and girls, state champions. Yeehaw! So yeah, I don't that my 6 chapter officials and staff are always working hard to improve their communities. I want them to introduce themselves here. I think they're going to be my bodyguards for the day as well. So first here is Santi, Clayton, Aisha, and Ryan. Please introduce yourself. Ashkod.
Yate Nakaidana Kiani to Glini Chachi.
Clayton.
She Clayton Sam, she Kiani Tuchini.
Aisha.
Aisha Williams. Tapahad and
Ryan.
Yatesh Kedo Shinedo Shidione Share Ryan George in the Shed, Tedishkin and Shlin, Torn at Westing, Haniani, that shit, Dedshin, Dashanella.
Thank you very much. Ado Arnoldsko. Nikisalau Abedasni. They put their lives on the line each day out protecting the public. And if you ever get a chance to see them at a gas station, buy them something to drink and say thank you to them. Nikisalau. Thank you very much, and God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you, Honorable Nez. Ado Kune Shaja. We have Honorable So.
Yat bene Shinant to Madam Speaker sit to ade khano ya ye shinna olon khano ya shay aro so in shia na kaid na to ye clean in shla nan aj khapa hapa shin look at na ta check sit na jini ta shin na look at nan shla honenes is it ya bebeshmas an shlo kat nas na khagon na ade shinel do could ya shinan nishte it ko yat ben do could ye behon yaje da shin so be hani hikito le tonnes de ya do ste koje da na you na nishte ego kadishinge tonnes de ya ay hot ego kadikato no selo no ye ako say ya tonnes do ado partners lin ay because ado chapter ashin so ne aj local governance with yego aj ye definition as an alternative form of government ako ay aj banan shi da yo ito aj partners lin because anike ya aj ye ya definition ko meeting the need trying to meet the needs of the community people there in Tuba City. On the Ade Western Agency, our veterans, Ade Angisalat, so Dashin so Hichat Hadiyado, Nihichadas Ba, Ko Ego, Kadishing, Koni Hitatahan Nodo, Konda, Tabadajo Banda, Kadosha, Eya Tishik in Da Kagota, Bennett and Dawisnago, out on with the West Jishko. Ito hashin so be ahazent o be ehni ki even yet. Adon da ade ka swedon hizani masandon hitche ade ya so ego ade neke said ya de dadi ne ade bi gunna ho wan gunna amma ja a che masana amma awe chini ke hit ade ako ade hot Dashin so be his ani ko ego ad which naket in ki ad ya hashit up in not be ndai not so be hot ego be yat be in not be gal yat de yosinto lot be ban sikis ko hot be ko do toshko de ha de do ko chini yaje ke do ke ko hot ko do I'm going to give some time to them to introduce themselves from the community of Choshkoi. Choshkoi hol, yeah, not Choshkai. Choshkoi hol, yeah, dear God. I'm going to cut off Shema Haley. Okay, can you come and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Haley begin in the chef. Topa Nishling. Now, Kaitan the Shino.
Yeah. On that Weston.
Yeah, they should get those today. Say Western Change. Kiani Nishling. Toba Hay Bashin. Hansa A Dashin. So, Tani A Dashinale.
I don't that we have two educators also. We give him some time, and especially this one here. He had the guts to run for Navajo Nation president, and he came in, you know, I commend him for that. I should never those things. He add ibniya, koho ya hot binahat at this add. Kodo, I'm gonna give time to them to introduce themselves.
Yad Earl Sombrero, Yinishye, Kintlichi, Nishle, B. Bitoni, Bashish Chinky, and the Shade is a son, the Shinala, they the Nebuchadnezzar, so they are the in Hania, though the Randon I saw Thala, do Nenegate out, could all eat the Nebenat Arne, but select the Eben Yandish with Nakinaka Yada Dashin. Ako AIC nahot igi pa ako ni zigi beni nachiko tachiko Asian nahat ashen tech.
Oh, ikiha kodo shana somewhere. Oh, ikiha kodo ikiha shaja delegate so and to our young ones on the floor, if you notice, we do have a timer. We have 5 minutes to speak. So if one of you speaks, it might cut off on you. Okoshi, ado shana. Thank you, Mr. Sombrero. Kodon Henyahagi. Ado Kunenana, we have Vice Chair Simonson.
Yat a bene ado shadeja Speaker Curly Ihehat non ado yanant e Quenzago e ya hila nikasinta don hayan tio ado o ya na hehensen di disje o alibi ado kwa hawan ya o yahagi chat hide ado nija do chat hije che hol ago yat eto hehat hidini dole ado shi oba hehesen ha shin zade higal o shado kwete e ya e noya ado shi disje da zade a kona hado huana ta dole o ya higan habenashni dole aron lede da is not sai do hashin togo nhitene o yuidel nish do e akon na we hobe kaya pakaida an le hoipiz ade kinda najja de tonande an anot en henashni lido le nye kon dadel klik don hit hot na zadon ke honesh kishnaz tade at e naha he ni zi do ya at e nye tshni do le ishi sad you ought you go all yeah be ya at ki a ko kodoya chine o yun hil ya kaila ado kodo e ba chohot josh kai ade o e de ka no ke ya holie de ade zel anigi ado shina shahate o e le zeli jean e jo kot ego e na kigo e hidit inle jashin zel e tra de jean de kon de ne ke ya pa ki josh kai do zeli jean do zel e what the yino olia is cargo zeli jean de o chino nke ka do le e ya shin sto ko do hil na has ka do le de kwa an no settle kwa Sinead data na has tra ya kwa onjranje but the dish alto a data hotol zin ado ya kwa o shin bejito a yen soit kwa yen nich hado zi o ya ba yen sini benina addition ado o hat hida alchana but has zi o bedishni ha is ino tat no singo belagana ba aha be oho no singo di sad belagana bazad lenigi hajo no tat o be get dot hi be hondo be no le hajo bohol hala di kwati ige hashin sogo sabe tanahoti ahibe ya hotel de nish ishja over the shnila ako oya nlede nhedene endan kado ko de be ija da yothaigi eto ba he nizi dole atana shama hajil sago it's chayi lado ado zito allan shaist edo benache koten janoni ya ko o ba kehinsen de bete not ina o what I think that they not lahigi. Okay, we have Mia. You're Mia. This is Mia. Stand up, Mia. So she is 10th grade, and she says she lives in urban areas as not to lose their culture. Students for Navajo students who live in urban areas as not to lose their culture. So that's a hope and a goal. We have Teralyn Begay, Kintlachitnin, 10th grade, to have more of our Diné people voices heard, she says. And then we have Andrea Yazi, in 11th grade. I hope to help the elders with the water problem we have and the horse population that is going on. Ado, we have Titna Jenny Green. Okay, to develop further opportunities for greater education on Navajo land. And then we have Shailene Brown, look at the 12th grade, hope to get into college and be independent. And then we have Navon Rogers, in 12th grade, to give a good education to kids on the Navajo Nation. So they wanted to talk, but because of time, I'm introducing them, and so thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Chair Simonson. Next, we have Shana, Vice Chair Johnson.
Yate Bene. Can everybody hear me? Yate Bene. One more time. Yate Bene. Just want to say good morning to everybody. It's good to be here today with you. It's a blessing to be alive. I'm very grateful to be here standing before you in your chambers. Just like to thank the color guard that came before us today to post the colors. Yeah, thank you for doing that. Also like to thank the students for their Pledge of Allegiance as well as their the national anthem. It was very beautiful. I'd like to thank Dr. Thomas for the prayer. Thank you for that beautiful prayer you provided us this morning. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God, for being in this position. I also like to thank my family, Alvina, Yithlaba, my dad, Al, my sister, Shetta, Alvina. She's my sister's birthday was this month. Just like to say happy birthday to her. And also like to recognize my brothers and my sisters. And I'd like to also recognize all the youth that is here with us today. I'd like for you to stand up. I'm not just going to recognize, dignitaries. I'm going to recognize the students. I want you all to stand up, please. I'm going to share with you a quote that I borrowed from Earl Tooley. I'm going to give him props for this one. You're the corn pollen of yesterday's prayers. You can be in these seats if you choose, if you make that choice and you decide to. These are your seats if you choose. You don't have to come from a prominent family of politicians. You don't have to have that background. You make sure that you do your best in life. The gift and passion is inside of you. It's not outside of you. Always remember that. And we're going to do the best for you. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for the energy. Yeah, thank you. I'd like to also recognize my chapters, Coal Mine, Talani Lake, Bird Springs, Loop, and Cameron. I'd like to recognize the chapter staff, officials, as well as the grazing officials, veterans, the club committee. I'd also like to give a special shout out to our water rights team. Thank you, for all your hard work and dedication. We are on the biggest water settlement in the United States. It's not being put out there, but that's the way I see it. I'd like to thank you. And also like to let everybody know that I'm introducing an emergency legislation and no haul uranium across the entire Navajo Nation. That's coming up. Also like to recognize Mr. Larry Noble, Apache County Recorder, former Navajo Nation Council delegate, serving on Navajo Nation Board of Election Supervisor. Also like to also recognize the Coalition of Large Tribes, the huge supporter of Navajo Nation. I'd like to congratulate Shnata, Honorable Lester Lee. It's an honor to serve with you. Congratulations. I'd also like to recognize Page High School 3A Girls State Championship and Santan Charter Roadrunners 2A Boys Championship. They'll be here tomorrow morning recognizing. We'll recognize them tomorrow morning. I'll also like to give a special shout out to Winter Rock Lady Scouts for runner-up. And I'd also like to recognize all the dignitaries that are here with us today. Thank you for being here. And also any former council delegates and leadership that are in the audience, thank you for being here. And Shay Casey Allen Johnson, my age, Hashkan Hazo Bashichin, Hana Nidesh Shay, Sidney Deshnella, Ego Dinenishli. That's my clans. And I'm proud of it. I just want to thank you, for being here. Thank you from the, from my spirit. May you guys have a safe journey. Always be kind, always be respectful, and take care of yourself. Thank you, Nsago. Share.
Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson. Next, we have Honorable Begay.
Good morning, everybody. Gallery, though, staff, though, Madam Chair, Speaker, though, colleagues in the 25th Council Baseball on Bishwan Khan Hazneligi. Yeah, thank you, Dini, though, later on the audience, Dino Sagi, overseas that Agida, Dino Sagi, Jam Kro. Should I also so Kro? Bana Shagi at it, the Schnittenson Gate is Sotoya. Arashid as I not senior center veterans that Hagi artist Sotan Ebonasha Arun Geja, Twachin Holiaja, Rema. Edo Ahote. I'd like to say good morning to Rema staff and chapter officials and CSC AMS, veterans, senior center Ajado, Aro Kujanana, Kid Ege Yatwachile. I don't see not shot. Yat Eroli Kanas, the CSC, though, veterans, though, veterans than Singido, Twajile, the Keonot, Ingiano, Tiana Shagi Kro, so Yat Dini, though, Letaro Kro, on its Gachin, Queen Hai Kingi, Baketa needs to know. Also, so is Sarkrotus, Gitchin, the Schnit and so, yeah. Yego that, yeah. The education is the only way to go, yeah. Kat Hunzagon Kedojisho. Ashi need Knaido, daughter education bit a kid, and then kat Krea Yego. Dinos Katan Kedne, Kimadon Kijadon Kinel that egg and Cheda Ada. Dinos are then Kintino, Ajo, Leba, Aslino, Ebe Nasho Kat, Aroa, Tabata Nishbikadash Chishin, the Benastro Katgide, Ben Yerchin Yaja. Bengichiati, going here, Squid of the Klingy bad Skisbay, Baden Bendan can Nescaso AIC, it a whole Adopia AIC, Titan Kit in Ye BIA boarding school, the Hodiego, go Eta than a Yaro, Nasni Kadota could a best was underneath boarding school, the Nil Khan. Going so it's a song which has 0 litaro, Hanang Diniro, the 3 satellite, the 3 islands, that's a Koshina, Kiala.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. And also want to recognize in our gallery Mr. Cal Curley, representing For Representative Ledger Fernandez. Kudoshina. We also want to recognize New Mexico Senator Sharon Pinto, and also her mom, Evelyn Pinto. Ado Shamato, former council delegate, Catherine Benali. And also on Zoom, we have our Navajo Nation Washington office, Mr. Hosteen. He said, make sure you say hello to me. And they're our Washington office to our staff that are out there working on behalf of the Navajo Nation. And also want to recognize our Sergeant of Arms for today, Officer Watchman. And colleagues, we have a small recognition for our students. If we could recess for 10 minutes to present certificates. Honorable Arvisa did make that request to recess for 10 minutes and before students start departing back to their schools. With that, colleagues, will recess for 10 minutes at 11:43 and reconvene at 12:03 p.m.
Turns here.
Okay.
Take one, and then I'll take one, and we'll go back and forth. That's delegate as to all. Borrow one of these. So delegates and everyone in the gallery, what we did is we developed a little small certificate for this. Draw their delegates. Thank you.
Quentin Vicente. Araya Billa. Tatum Bitsy. Jeroen Bitsui. Taraya Castillo. Kiera Gruber. Kyra Harrison. Chantel James. Clayton Long. That's Chantel. Clayton Long.
Winton Manuelito. Or Clayton. Right here. Clayton Sam. Christina Seraphin. You came back here. Joaquin Yazi. Santina Wood. Ayana Vallo. Weston Chi. You want one of your own? Okay. Ian Holion. Okay. Alandria James. Crystal Johnson. Kylie Sandoval. Darius Skeet. Olana Watson. Aisha Williams. Deanne Baya. Haley Baya.
Thank you. Yo. Yes. Thank you, Honorable Arviso, and also Chair Nez for doing our recognition of our students from Choshkai Middle School, and may you continue to drive back to class safely. And if any of the students that also need to be excused this morning, you're more than welcome to do so. Colleagues, if we could quiet down in the gallery as well, and I'm going to turn the floor over to Chair Vince James to do a presentation this morning.
Nana Speaker, Ado Shanat Ahno Thinigi, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Earlier, I indicated to you guys the late Honorable Mr. Paul Dookie, and the original songwriter of Treaty of 1868. And so when I did the recognition 2.5 years ago at his homestead, a jacket as the 24th Navajo Nation Council, Ado Nana as the songwriter. We also presented a certificate at that time. Earlier, recognized but the family wasn't here, so his wife is here now, Annie Dookie, Ado, the kids, so I wanted to present a Navajo Nation flag on behalf of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, and then also the Speaker and with Vice President of the Navajo Nation, Miss Annie Dookie. We would like to recognize you with the Navajo Nation flag in memory of Mr. Paul Dookie for writing and singing the 1868 song. And this past Navajo Nation Fair, he was also recognized at the Song and Dance Arena. And that was his legacy that he left us, is the song that he had wrote during my recognition 2 years ago. He really described it as how the previous and former leaders asked him to make that song. And they went over and over it several times to get the lyrics correctly and straight. And they had to consult with previous leaders, previous chairman, Peterson Zaw. They worked all together on that song. And that's how a lot of our veterans utilizes that Treaty of 1868 for recognition for our veterans as well. And then other different events that happen that is related to the Navajo Nation, that is related to the Treaty of 1868. That song is always played. So with that, I'll give some time over to staff to play the song. And at the same time, if you want to acknowledge the family, you're more than welcome to come up. Colleagues, members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Again, thank you, Vice President Richelle Montoya, and then thank you again, Speaker of the Navajo Nation, 25th Navajo Nation Council, and colleagues. You can go ahead and play this song. Just really want to say thank you. Thank you, Speaker and members of the 25th Navajo Nation Council, and condolence Shema. Ado Chin Nofini, Soka and Naliket and Lini, Dog 8 and Lini, to Tohas Ando, Wood Spring, Arizona. Hada Inofnet Ashonda. Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues of the 25th Navajo Nation Council. Thank you for taking a few minutes for recess to recognize our students and also our families. In the meantime, colleagues, we will open back up the floor for roll call. Colleagues, roll call is back open. And we have Delegate So also here, so Mark can present. Thank you, colleagues. That is from the full floor. We do have 18 present, and we will reconvene at 12:07 p.m. Thank you, colleagues, again for taking a short recess for those recognitions. And we are still on recognizing guests and visiting officials. Next, we do have reserve time. We do have reserve time by Chair Eugene R. Charles Newton with 2 minutes and 28 seconds.
Thank you, Speaker. And Speaker, this morning, I know that you did a moment of silence, but that was what I was going to request, actually. And under the 24th, I know all moment of silence were usually held at the end so that we could do them all at once. I'm not going to ask that we do that this time. What I would like to ask, Speaker, is that maybe a press release could be written in light of us all standing at the time. One of my veterans, Mr. Sammy Aki, who was also a criminal investigator for many years, passed last week. And, it just, there's, I think each one of us here at council, we have certain people in our communities that stand beside us, that encourage us, people who are not our relatives, by blood, people that we didn't know until we came into office. And Sammy was one of them. And I wasn't able to go to his service. I don't go to funeral services. I do attend the receptions, but I don't go to funeral services. And it really broke my heart, that Sammy had passed. I know he lived a long life. Sammy was he was a veteran. He spoke on behalf of veterans' issues. He was also a very staunch supporter of victims' rights. He was a former criminal investigator. I was hoping to have gotten all of his information this morning before I had the opportunity to speak, Speaker, but it hasn't been sent to me by the family. I would just like to ask, Speaker, that maybe a press release be written on behalf of council at this time to recognize his dedication, the work that he's done, and the fact that he was a veteran serving our Shiprock community as well as our Northern Agency for many years. So, Speaker, that's what I want to ask at this time, is just to recognize Mr. Sammy Aki from the Shiprock community, and I'll work with your office on issuing a press release about his life, who he was, and his passing, and how that will have an effect on all of us here on the nation. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you again, colleagues. So if we could rise for a moment of silence for Mr. Sammy Aki and his family. Thank you, colleagues. Again, colleagues, I don't see anybody else in queue for recognizing guests and visiting officials. And we don't have any reserved time. So colleagues, I'm going to go down to number 4, review and adopt the agenda. Ms. Johnson, could you help us read our agenda to the record?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members of the 25th Nomination Council, guests and visiting audience, this is the proposed agenda of the 25th Nomination Council Spring Session, April 15 through 19, 2024. Presiding Honorable Crystalline Curley, Speaker, 25th Nomination Council. 1, call session to order, roll call invocation. 2, oath of office. Honorable Lester C. Yazzie, Council Delegate. 3, recognize guests and visiting officials to the nomination. 4, review and adopt the agenda. 5, receive the State of the Nation address from the President of the nomination. 6, receive report from the Chief Justice of the nomination. 7, receive report from the Speaker of the nomination. 8, receive financial report from the Controller. 9, oral reports. A, Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIA. B, Indian Health Services, IHS. C, Attorney General. D, Nomination Youth Advisory Council. 10, written reports. A, standing committees. B, boards and commissions. C, Bureau of Indian Affairs. D, Indian Health Services Area Director. 11, old business. A, legislation 0246-23. 12, new business. A, legislation 0039-24. B, legislation 0046-24. C, legislation 0075-24. D, legislation 0076-24. E, legislation 0059-24. F, legislation 0040-24. G, legislation 0048-24. 13, close of session, announcements, and adjournment. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Colleagues, do we have a motion to adopt our agenda? Motion by Chair James, and then second by Chair Eugene R. Charles Newton. Colleagues, any questions, comments on the agenda today? I don't see anybody else in queue, colleagues. Oh, we have Vice Chair Johnson.
Thank you, Speaker Curley. This time I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda to add emergency legislation 0082-24.
Thank you, Vice Chair Johnson. There is a motion on the floor to add legislation 0082-24. Ms. Johnson, could you help us read that title into the record, and I can recognize a second?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Emergency legislation, tracking number 0082-24, an act relating to an emergency urgent request to President Joseph R. Biden Jr., the White House, members of Congress, and relevant federal agencies to halt the transportation of uranium through nomination lands. Prime sponsor is Honorable Casey Johnson. Co-sponsor is Honorable Crystalline Curley. Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. There is a motion on the floor to add legislation 0082-24. Is there a second? Second by Chair James. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments on amendment number 1 to our agenda? Second call. And third call. 2 minutes on the board for amendment number 1. Colleagues, that is the full vote here from the floor. We have 17 in favor, 0 opposed with speaker not voting. Amendment number 1 carries. And that legislation will be recorded as new legislation H. Colleagues, we are back on the main motion of our agenda. Chair Parrish.
Thank you, Speaker Curley. Speaker, I'd like to motion for amendment number 2 for consent agenda for legislation 004024, legislation 004824, and legislation 004624.
Thank you, Chair Parrish, and we're going to have our staff put that on the board here before I recognize a second. So that is new business B, new business F, and new business G. That is updated here on the board. Colleagues, is there a second? Second by Vice Chair Simonson. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments on amendment number 2? First call, we have Vice Chair Slater. This is on amendment number 2.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and thank you for the motion for the consent agenda. Reviewing all these legislations, I'm comfortable voting affirmatively for them at this time because they've been reviewed at the committee level, at the Navajo committee level, and we've had an opportunity to debate and discuss them. So I'd like to request for all the remaining legislations to be added onto the consent agenda, including Mr. Johnson's legislation, and then if colleagues are uncomfortable with that, then we can remove them from there. I'll reserve my time. Thank you.
Time of 27.